What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to Second and Short and our wild card weekend review. You know, the playoffs brought us some dunkers of some games and some pretty awesome games as well. With the ups and downs, the highs and the low, we're going to kind of do a special playoff edition of our original Monday Movers episodes. And we're going to be talking about some ups and downs from this weekend and kind of just reviewing these games. No Aaron today, no Molly. I am by myself. We will see them very soon, potentially later on this week, as we predict and break down the matchups for divisional weekend. Before we jump on in, be sure to click subscribe down below to stay updated on everything that is Second and Short as we drop multiple episodes every week. As well, leave a thumbs up because it's the cheapest way you can support this podcast. With all that being said, let's jump on in to our wild card review. And we're going to start with the first game of wild card action, and that was the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Buffalo, to take on the number 2 seeded Bills. And with the first time ever having 6 games on this weekend, and now the 2 seed has to play, this game kind of almost showed why we should have expanded playoffs in the first place and why it should stay. The next game with the 2 and the 7 kind of shows the opposite, but let's just break down this game here. And getting it up for us here is just the play, it's just the playmaking ability of guys like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is the biggest up here today. Now, he comes in off of leading the league in receiving yards for the first time in his career. A lot of people were saying over the first 3 years of his career, like, oh man, this guy can never get 1,000 yards. He's just the number 2 receiver. Comes to Buffalo, leads them through, leads the league in receiving yards, and then dominates with 6 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. He had 9 targets along the way. He was good for 21.3 yards a catch. It's insane, especially considering the fact that we had other guys that just weren't able to deliver. I mean, John Brown was really not a factor out there. Their run game was stagnant. If you did take away Josh Allen's rushing yards, they had 42 rushing yards between their running backs. There was nothing on the ground going, and his playmaking ability was able to get this Buffalo team out of the danger zone. And the danger zone was the fact that the Colts were so close to actually winning this game. And because he's able to have this big playmaking ability against a really strong defense, that is going to carry over next week when they host the Baltimore Ravens. And that's another good defense that he's going to have to show through. And I think Josh Allen is, again, just kind of showing how good of a quarterback he is. I mean, he took 2 sacks on the day, but nothing too big here. Getting it up here, Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs. And with that being said, getting it down here is Frank Reich and the play calling. It's just so puzzling. I mean, late in the second quarter, the Colts are on a goal line and they go for it on 4th down and just give up there's no points, that they don't have anything. And they had an opportunity on like 3rd and 1 to just punch it in. And I think everybody was expecting them just to punch it in. I mean, worst case, you get 2 opportunities from the 1-yard line. You're probably going to score. And they come away with nothing. And it ended up leading Buffalo and Josh Allen driving the ball all the way down and getting the lead at halftime. Again, late in the 4th quarter, we see a similar situation where the team is down 14. They go for 2. Yes, they end up getting a 2-point conversion later in the 4th quarter, but it's still one of those things where you just kind of question the play calling. When you have a day like you did, where Phillip Rivers isn't sacked, he's hardly pressured. Your run game is okay, but Phillip Rivers is throwing the ball all over the place. He's doing okay today. The play calling hurt you and prevented you from winning this game. In a game where you only lost by 3 points, that extra 3 points towards the end of the second quarter would have been great here. Yes, hindsight 2020, we know and everything, but clutch players, clutch coaches deliver in clutch situations. It's something like that, Big players make big plays, and it goes for coaching as well. Is this Phillip Rivers' last game? It's yet to be determined. I think he looked really well out there. I liked how he was playing, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a change of guard. The Colts have been flirting with this salary cap where they've had so much money for the past 4 or 5 years, it seems, and they never really go out and spend big, and this might be the time that they go out and spend big. We might see a trade of maybe somebody like Carson Wentz. Maybe we'll see them push and go after Dak Prescott. Maybe Phillip Rivers has 1 more year in him. We don't know, but I will tell you this, that this Colts team needs to figure out how to get over this slight hump and get through these playoffs in the wild card weekend. Moving on to our second game, and that was the Los Angeles Rams taking on their division rival, Seattle Seahawks, and oh boy. So John Wolford gets the start out of nowhere. Jared Goff is benched, but then Wolford gets hit hard, has to go to the hospital. He's out for the game. Goff comes in, and you'd think it's a situation where Seattle's offense is so good and the Rams offense is so bad that they'll be able to score points. And here's the biggest thing. The biggest thing that we have to take away from this is that the Rams defense is legit. Even with Aaron Donald leaving the game midway through, they were able to apply pressure. 5 sacks on the day on Russell Wilson, including a huge sack that put them out of range to even do anything, putting them in like a 3rd and 19 or 3rd and 20 in that third quarter. And with the pressure they can get, we've seen this a lot of times. And I've been saying this whole time we've had this podcast open. I've been saying it even longer, just as a football fan. If you can have a really good pass rush and a decent to really good run game, you can win games in the playoffs. And if you can do that, your quarterback play can be subpar. But if you're getting pressure on the quarterback and you can run that ball and drain that clock, you're going to win the game. And that's exactly what they did. Cam Akers, 28 rushes, 131 yards, and a touchdown on the day. Huge for 4.7 yard average. I mean, the guys over on the other side weren't getting it done as well as they were. So for me, getting a huge up here is the Rams' rush defense, as well as Cam Akers getting a slight bump as well, with our down being Russell Wilson himself. I mean, through weeks 1 through 8, Russell Wilson was a top 3 candidate for MVP. We were praising him for his big playmaking ability and like how he's able to drop 30 plus points because his defense can't do anything and he has to score 5 touchdowns a game just to be able to win. And then he comes up short here. I mean, 11 of 27. That's bad. That's bad. I mean, you could just check down City all day and you would have put up better stats than him. And Jared Goff almost put up better stats than him with only 9 completions. He was 9 of 19, 155 yards. Russell Wilson, what are you doing here? It doesn't make any sense to me. He threw a 51-yard touchdown, and if you take that away right there, he had 10 completions for about 120 yards on the day. That's bad. And his pick 6 is just another example of why this Rams team was able to win. This defense was so good, it shut him down, put him in check, and this is going to be a game that is going to haunt Russell Wilson all offseason, which is a good thing and a bad thing because he should have won this game. This game should have been theirs. There's a backup quarterback coming on in. I mean, Aaron Donald goes out in this game. They have guys that just had a week off because of COVID. Jared Goff just dislocated his finger. There's so many things going wrong for this Rams team. You should have been able to win. I mean, you're undefeated at home with Pete Carroll in the playoffs. That's just it. And now you host the game, and the 12th man clearly didn't come through for you. Russell Wilson didn't come through for you. Now, why is this a good thing that he's going to be dwelling on this? Well, if you're a Seahawks fan, this is going to make him hungry and angry, and he's going to push, and he's going to come back even better because he does not like losing, especially like this. This loss is on Russell Wilson. That's it. Plain and simple. We just said it last section. Big players make big plays in big situations. Simple as that. On to our final game of Saturday's action, and we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to the Washington football team. As you know, for the 3rd time in the NFL, we had a team with a losing record hosting a playoff game, and the previous 2 had actually won. So, I mean, Tampa Bay is supposed to be this hot, firecracker team. They got a good defense. This offense is insane. They got all these number 1 wide receivers on any team. They'd be, I hear it all. We hear it all. They're supposed to win. But this Washington team came to play. I mean, behind Taylor Heinicke, they were holding in there almost the whole game until Tampa Bay kind of pulled away late in the 4th quarter with a 31-23 victory. Tom Brady played great. I mean, 22 completions for 381 yards. Last time I checked, this guy doesn't have a deep arm, right? All he does is check down City, right? He's like 90% from under 10 yards, but he's like 0% from over 20. That's what everybody like, oh man. Dude, we all are wrong about Tom Brady. He's not done. He's not done. He could play for the next 10 years for all I know. This guy is insane. And his arm is not fading. It's the gameplay, the game scripts, the way everything is running, the routes they're choosing for these receivers. when they let him throw it how he wants to throw it, he wants to throw it deep, they're going to score. And that's what they did. Everything from top to bottom was looking good for this team. I mean, Leonard Fournette came back, had 93 rushing yards. Keyshawn Vaughn stepped in, 5 rushes, 21 yards. Good for a 4-point average. Everybody ran the ball well, 142 yards on the ground. When they put up over 500 yards of offense on this Washington team, that is like top tier in pass rush and run defense, and they're good at stuffing everybody. So getting it up here is Tom Brady and him not being done. Like I said, he looked great out there. And the fact that he is now holds the record for the oldest quarterback to A, win a playoff game, B, throw a touchdown in a playoff game. No turnovers on the day is another huge thing. And getting it down here is maybe like the slightest of downs, but it's a little Chase Young, When I say little Chase Young, I'm not calling him little. I'm saying it's a little bump for Chase Young. This guy was saying, I want Tom Brady. I'm going to sack him. I'm going to get to him. That's all I want in this playoffs. This Washington team has been sacking people all year long. And Chase Young was able to get about 3 total tackles. He had 1 solo tackle, no sacks, no tackle for losses, no QB hits, nothing. Tom Brady had time. And because of that, Chase Young gets a slight down. Really, this Washington team played better than anybody probably thought they were going to play. And they potentially could have beat some other teams in this playoffs. They really could have. I think they're on this bad situation now where they're going to be looking at Taylor Heinicke, who I mentioned earlier, who had a decent day. I mean, actually a really good day. 26 for 44, 306 yards. He had a touchdown interception, but he also ran for 46 yards and a touchdown. He looked like a guy that was just throwing his body out there, doing whatever it took to win this game for them. And it's an issue. The reason why it's an issue is because Washington needs to find an established quarterback for their team. They can't be playing roulette. They can't be trading for backup quarterbacks. They can't be just drafting guys because they feel like they have to. They need to get the guy for their team. With somebody like Heinicke playing like this, with Alex Smith playing how he did play, it's an issue for this team because they're going to fall on one of these quarterbacks, and it's going to do the same thing it did to them this year. Moving on to Sunday's action. And Sunday's action started off with my co-host Aaron's favorite team, Tennessee Titans, taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And as he said, he predicted the Ravens are going to win this game because it's hard to beat 3 teams 3 times in a row, Last year, they beat him by 2 scores. He reminded Ravens fans of that all year long. Then the Titans beat the Ravens again in the regular season. However, this Ravens team was coming off of 5-0 in their last 5 games, dominating December and early January, running the ball better and better each week. That's what gets up here for us. I don't know how I can keep doing this, but their run game keeps getting better. Against Tennessee, they ran 35 times, 236 yards, good for almost 7 yards an attempt, and they had 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's 48-yard touchdown scramble in the second quarter propelled this Ravens team to winning the game. Because if he doesn't make that run and they get stuffed a little bit, they have to try and settle for a long field goal potentially if they get a couple more yards, or just punt the ball and Tennessee runs out the clock in that half and it's 10-3 going into halftime. That changes the game completely. And for that, Lamar Jackson getting his first playoff win, 3rd time's a charm. We said it last week. It was our graphic for our playoff predictions back on Thursday. It was the charm for him. He had it. He played well. Passing game, so-so, 17 for 24, 179 yards. Did all right. Threw an interception early in the game. But overall, he looked like a guy, like I kept saying before, he looked like he did everything he was supposed to do that I said Russell Wilson should have been doing for Seattle. Big players make big plays in big situations. Simple as that. So Lamar Jackson, that run game, gets it up for us. And getting it down for us here is, it's easy to point fingers, right? Like Derrick Henry had 18 carries, 40 yards. The Ravens held him in check. Not just that, but the whole team, they ran 22 times for 51 yards. That's under 3 yards an attempt. And they were able to shut him down. I mean, they didn't even let Ryan Tannehill do anything. They got 1 sack on him, but they were able to just kind of get in there and get pressure the whole game. The reason why the Ravens were able to get this pressure on Derrick Henry, thanks to Next Gen Stats, they stacked 8+ defenders in the box 72% of his runs. So of his 18 attempts, 72% of that time, they stacked the box with 8 or more defenders, which is the 4th highest rate of any running back faced this entire season. In that stacked box, he had 13 carries for 24 yards. His longest rush was 8 yards. He failed to get a first down the entire game. I'm not giving him a down, though. I mean, this guy's been riding a high all year. He's one of the reasons, if not the reason, the Titans did so well and made the playoffs in my eyes. Getting it down here is Mike Vrabel in his fourth quarter coaching. For one specific scenario, he's in plus territory, 4th and 2, and he punts the ball in the fourth quarter, down by a score. One score, that's it. In my eyes, you can lose by 1 point or you can lose by 40 points. And guess what? You're still a loser. You still go home. So why not risk it? Based on what I've heard, Pro Football Focus or whoever I heard it from, I think it's who I heard it from, but it is the first time in NFL history over the past like 40, 50 years that a team has been down by 1 score in the fourth quarter in plus territory and has punted the ball away. The first time ever. And you know what that does? You're not punting the ball away to put them in bad position. You're punting the ball away to lose the game. Simple as that. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me that you could keep going for that ball, push it. What's the worst thing that happens? You lose the ball and they get a field goal anyways? What's the best thing that happens? You push for it, you get a score, you make it a close game. Simple as that. That was topped. The Bears traveling to the New Orleans Saints was everything that will make you hate the 7-game playoff team experience. The expansion was because the Bears didn't belong. We said this on our last Movers Monday that they backed their asses in on accident. They were running and they tripped and they fell into the playoffs, all thanks to other teams just playing even worse than them. Because of that, they showed they didn't belong. Now, it's not that this, like the Bears in general, like everybody's going to look and go like, Mitch Trubisky didn't throw for over 200 yards. He threw a touchdown, but his QBR was 13 point. No, Mitch Trubisky was not the issue. But getting it down for us here is the Chicago Bears as a whole. Outside of Mitch Trubisky, I don't think Mitch Trubisky did anything wrong. I thought he played very well. I mean, everything was wrong from a teammate punching somebody and getting ejected to Javon Wims dropping a dime. I mean, you couldn't have handed the ball off better than Trubisky threw it into the end zone from 50 yards. A nice little trick play. Javon Wims gets about a yard or two separation at about the 10 to 5 yard line. He's in the end zone. The game would be 7-7 and he drops it. That happened in the first quarter. And you're like, okay, well, it's first quarter and everything. Nothing else can go really wrong. And then that ejection happens. And then here we are. It's 7-3. The Saints, you force them to punt at the end of the second quarter. You don't ever get this. Normally Drew Brees gets the ball at the end of the second quarter. And with about 1:50 left, I have no idea. Matt Nagy decides to run the ball and then run the ball and then run the ball. And now you got a punt. They got 8 yards on 3 plays. They literally had to try and travel 82 yards or at least travel 50 yards and get a field goal, get something before half. Because here's the thing, here's the real scenario. The Bears got the ball at halftime. It'd be perfect, right? Just get a field goal, get the ball at half, get at least another field goal or a touchdown. Now you're winning the game. And Matt Nagy just kind of ran the game away at that point. At the very end of that game, there was a really nice drive that he had to get him a touchdown. I mean, 11 plays, 99 yards, took about 210. So an extra 17 yards, and they scored a touchdown. Why couldn't you have done it at the end of the second quarter? That would have made the game so much different for you going forward. It would have changed the momentum of everything and helped this team look better than they actually played. The score finishes 21-9. The Bears got that walk-off losing touchdown. Jimmy Graham, amazing catch. Amazing catch. Maybe the best play of the entire game. Getting it up for us here is, Drew Brees and these Saints holding strong. This Bears team has actually had a pretty good defense all year, and we kind of said that this is a thing they had to watch out for, but a couple weeks ago, everybody was kind of dogging on Brees because he looked bad when he came back, and everybody thought maybe he should have waited another week. The first half, he played bad, and the second half played okay, and over the past couple weeks since he's returned, I feel like he's been getting better and better, and I think he's officially back to where he was, 28-39, 265 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and here's the big thing too, he didn't take a sack on the day. Light pressure, no big sacks, no big punishment, and what do you know? The Saints are able to win the game. Simple as that. Yeah, Alvin Kamara was Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas was Michael Thomas, but getting other guys involved in the action is what's big for this Saints team. It always has been. They've always had extra guys come on in and just these guys that in most times would be called no-namers come in and make plays in the playoffs because you're not expecting them to, and that's what they always do. And the reason why is Drew Brees. Now, that game ended as a clunker. There was 30 points scored in that entire game, mainly thanks to a walk-off garbage time touchdown. Well, to upset them and to kind of dominate is in the first quarter of this next game between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, the Browns scored 28 points. And yes, the game ends with a 11-point difference where it looks closer than it was. This game was never close. As soon as the first quarter was over, the game was over. This Cleveland Browns team gets enough for us. But behind their tenacity, the fact that every time that they were able to get a turnover, they were able to put down points off of these. That's the biggest thing there. I mean, we see this Steelers team come out and first play, fumble, touchdown, or fumble, and then Browns get a touchdown. Here's the next big thing. Interception, Browns get a touchdown. Okay, well now you forced them a 3-and-out, touchdown. Another interception, touchdown. I mean, the fact that they were able to score off of these turnovers, and it was all but one turnover they were able to score points off of. I mean, late in the fourth quarter, interception, field goal. Like, they were able to get points 4 out of 5 turnovers, which is huge. When you can do that, you're going to win every game. It's not impossible to win these games, and the Cleveland Browns are for real, and I predicted them to win, and Aaron didn't, so I'm going to take a slight little bump there and say, I told you. And this Browns team, if they can make the Super Bowl, will have the greatest playoff run of all time. Simple as that. They just beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have won 17 consecutive games on Heinz Field against the Cleveland Browns, and they've upheld to them there. This is getting a huge up is the Browns. It's just a Browns turnover game, and they're able to get points off of turnovers. They had adversities all over the place. I mean, Joel Bittner was out on the offensive line, and then we have Jack Conklin get hurt as well. That's 2 offensive linemen. They're losing multiple coaches aren't there. I mean, Kevin Stephani is not there to call plays for them, and they were able to still win. Baker Mayfield's getting better and better every game. This run game is still good. It's great. I mean, they only got 127 yards, but that's all they needed. Every time they ran the ball, they were getting 4 or 5 plus yards, it seemed. They're able to make plays at all levels. Simple as that. They got the victory. They earned it. If they can now what they have to do, now they have to go to Kansas City and beat Mahomes. And if they win that game, then they either have to go to Baltimore and beat Lamar Jackson or go to Buffalo and beat Josh Allen. And then if they do that, then they got to take on either Breeze, Brady, or Rodgers, or this really dominant Rams defense in the Super Bowl. I mean, it'll be the most unlikely playoff run ever. But for right now, celebrate. The Browns get their first playoff win in for a long time. I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs in 18 years. They haven't won a playoff game in even longer than that. Good ups on them. And getting it down here is the Pittsburgh Steelers underestimating the Cleveland Browns. Last week, they played them. We saw something happen where they decided we're in the playoffs. We already got a top 3 seed. It's okay. Let's kind of sit some guys and let our backups play. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Huge mistake. When you have a chance to beat your rival and prevent them from making the playoffs potentially, you do it. Simple as that. You beat them. Either they're the 7 seed and you don't play them, or they're bounced out of the playoffs and you get somebody else and you're maybe the 2 seed. I know Buffalo ended up winning, but I'm just saying it didn't make any sense to me. And all that did was give the Browns momentum and put the Steelers in a bigger hole. They finished 12-4 in the season. And that's a huge disappointment for them, considering the fact that they lost 4 of their last 5 games. That's a huge no-no for me there. And they almost lost against the Colts as well. And they had close games all year long. The fact that they underestimated the Cleveland Browns is the biggest problem for them here. And that is going to do it for us here on Second and Short. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Be sure to check us out on all social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and be sure to hit us up down in the comment section down below. Let us know what you guys thought about this playoff weekend, and hit us up in the DMs. We don't care. We'll listen to you. You got an idea? Shoot it our way. You want to tell us what we're doing right and wrong? Let us know. We don't care. We're here for you guys. We're also on Reddit. Come check us out there as well on the subreddit Second and Short. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back later this week to give you guys our playoff predictions for the divisional round. Thank you guys. Have a good day.